Ethical issues in the global arena. You know, we are very much of a globalized planet. We can go back to periods of people traveling in one direction or the other, but nowadays it's much more so. We are truly globalized. The period after World War II, the post-World War II decade, really saw a lot of growth, especially U.S. exports to other countries, countries buying from us. From 1955 to 1970, the growth years, we saw lots of countries building up their own infrastructure, their own ability to manufacture. Through the 70s and 80s, we saw in not just in the United States with poor quality, we saw problems with growth in places like Mexico and Argentina and Brazil and the Americas. We also saw problems brewing in other places such as the Soviet Union. They were having problems with their own war in Afghanistan, not ours, but theirs. But from about the 1980s to now, we have the new international order. People are cooperating. There was about 1990, about 10 decades into that, we saw that communism under Russia fell, and the Chinese modified. They still have communism, but it's not the same version. And from about the new millennium to now, our book is referring to it as the new world. We're not even sure where that's headed, but there's no doubt about it. The world is interconnected. It's globalized. Now, there are some people who are for it. These are the globalists. And there are some people who are against it, and these are the anti-globalists. And they see things from, opposing views. For example, for consumers, they see that the globalists see that free trade promotes lower costs. I see it. Go to Walmart. The prices are low. But the anti-globalists will say, yeah, but what about in the poor country? In the poor countries, this benefits the wealthy, not the poor people. With employees, we see the globalists saying, yes, faster growth, higher wages, improved working conditions. I see it in my mother's hometown in Mexico, is that now there are nice factories. Before there were no factories. But the anti-globalists will say, yeah, but it's profits above people. Anyway, you can see the whole 2 columns here in this slide, and you can see that it deals with environmental development and human rights. The globalists are saying one thing, and the anti-globalists are saying another. And you know what? Neither of the two is wrong. They're both saying that these two things are happening, and maybe it requires an ethical approach so that the anti-globalists will not have an argument to stand on. Maybe we as managers need to fix our companies so that they don't have these arguments. Now, these are the big ethical issues that we should take a look at. Product safety. Does the product have lead? The Chinese have been sending stuff to us that has lead in it. What about products made for children? There's a lot of things with product safety. We look at plant safety. Just recently in Bangladesh, we had a clothing factory just fall down and kill all the people, or many of the people that were in it. Are the plants safe? What about advertising practices? Are we advertising something that shouldn't be? What about food with lots of sugar in it, say cereal, for example, that's directed at children? Is that ethical? Are we doing it in other countries? Are we advertising things that we should not be? What about HR management? Are we treating employees correctly, the right way in other countries? Maybe it might be that Apple is not watching how Foxconn, that employs a lot of people to make products for Apple, that they're not being treated right, that they don't even have bathroom breaks. There's environmental problems. Are we dumping waste in other countries? Are we buying other countries' waste here? And finally, business practices, with bribery and other things like that. Anyway, these are the main ethical issues. Now, we have an organization that's come up with this program called Social Accountability 8000. And in there, we do talk about child labor. No, it's not good. In the US, we used to have child labor. Other countries are now just barely going through the discussion of it. I can tell you that in Mexico that it's against the law to hire children, just as it is here in the US, but maybe there are some places where it is not enforced. Forced labor. You won't believe it, but there is slavery, there is prostitution, there are people that are being hurt. Health and safety. The right to join a union. That's what the right to collective bargaining means. Discrimination. You know, in Mexico, just up to a few years ago, it was okay to hire just females, you know, to have an ad that said, we want good-looking females. And what they meant by that, well, how did they say it in Spanish? Well, what they were trying to say is we don't want people who look indigenous. We want people who look European. Well, excuse me, that's a problem. Discipline. How do we discipline employees? Do we just fire them? I can remember the place where my wife worked in Mexico City. Right at 8 o'clock in the morning, if you weren't in the door, they locked the doors. You couldn't come in. After 3 days or 3 times that you missed, you were fired. Well, can't we have something a little bit less rigid than that? Working hours. There are some countries where a 48-hour work week is normal. Here in the US, we say, no, 40 hours is about right. And so anyway, you get the idea that some of the same things that we enjoy and the Western Europeans enjoy too, and the Japanese, maybe these should be shared in other countries too. This is a big issue, bribery. There are some people that say that bribery is necessary, that when in Rome, do as the Romans. That, you know, it's a common practice, it's accepted, and, you know, some people even consider it, well, this is one way of collecting taxes. You know, the policeman, instead of him receiving a salary from, you know, from higher up, derived from taxes, he's just taxing the citizen on the spot. Well, okay. I don't go with these arguments. Yes, I know that they're there. I don't really believe in them. I know that sometimes it's necessary, but you as an American representing an American company, you cannot bribe people in other countries. It is against the law. Now, it is wrong and illegal in most developed countries, and managers should not deal with corrupt governments. That's what the people against bribery say. They say that once it starts, it never stops. Well, yeah, you can stop it, but it is hard. You get an idea for this. I am probably more in the right-hand column than in the left-hand column. Now, take a look at these two sides. We have on this side ethical imperialism, over here cultural relativism. Relativism is that, oh, it's okay, you know, one society isn't better than another society. You know, there is no stand for a moral high ground. Over here, it's to the extreme that our ethics are better than your ethics. So someplace there is a middle ground. And we have a mix of home and host country standards. Okay? And we apply ethical principles. Yes, we do have our cultural standards and our ethics and our morals in our home country, but they have that in their country too, whichever one that is. And what we want to do is find the middle ground. And that's what international law and global codes of conduct are about. So, when we're in the the home country versus host country, we start asking, well, which ethical standards will be used? Generally, it's going to be a combination of both. And then there's a question of ethical standards. Will they transcend national boundaries? Do they transfer across our borders? What about worker and product safety, fair treatment, health discrimination, freedom, minimum pay, consumer rights, environmental protection? And so the big questions that we need to resolve as managers is, what are the items that can constitute moral minimums in each category and build up from those minimums? We shouldn't be at a minimum. We should build as much as possible. How do we go about doing this? Well, one of the things we can do is create a global code of conduct. It's not just for our country, but something that we can use in other countries too. We integrate ethics into our global strategy. And we can suspend activities in a host country if they're not working. And finally, we create ethical impact statements and audits to measure to see if what we're doing is actually working.